I miss tacked on multiplayer games, a phrase that used to be an insult. I think that era gave us better multiplayer games than the live service ones we get today. Right now it seems like all the industry cares about is building the next forever game, and it isn't going so well.
Concord has been cancelled after 11 days.
Sony's exclusive party shooter game Foam Stars is receiving one more season of content, and then it's over.
This generation alone, the industry has lost nearly a third of its overall development talent to layoffs.
PlayStation is apparently shutting down Blue Point Games.
Things haven't been going well for Ubisoft lately, especially now that Hyperscape is shutting down.
Tigard is officially shutting down.
Millions of dollars spent, years of development, and then the server shut down a month later. Live service games, supposed to last 10 years, that can't even last 10 weeks. Meanwhile, some of the best multiplayer games ever made weren't live service at all. They were tacked on multiplayer. That phrase used to have a negative connotation, I think unfairly so. Just because a multiplayer may have been tacked on didn't necessarily mean it was bad. It actually often came with many benefits. You'd buy a single player game because you wanted a single player game. And then there'd be a multiplayer component right there, so if it was bad, who cares? And if it was good, then it was a bonus. And due to it being an extension of the single player, we often got a lot more varied and unique multiplayer experiences, like Assassin's Creed and Batman Origins, God of War Ascension. These multiplayer games, unlike anything else. Nowadays, it feels like we only get hero shooters and battle royale games, and if you don't like either of those genres, then you're cooked. Not to mention that these games are nowadays mostly one or the other, either exclusively multiplayer, live service, lifestyle games, or exclusively single player. But some of my favorite multiplayer games of all time come from this era. The Last of Us Factions being my favorite multiplayer of all time. There wasn't this need for everything to go on forever, no 10-year roadmap, no battle pass, but that didn't mean the game couldn't get frequent updates, or that there wasn't any money to be made in the back end. I bought the DLC weapons, the cosmetics, and the execution animations in The Last of Us, and people still play The Last of Us Factions till this day. So the idea that this isn't a viable business model anymore, I just don't agree with. With all these live service games coming out only to end up shutting down a month later, why is making something smaller in scale and attaching it to your single player experience as an experiment to see if it can catch on and then building from there not more viable? Why is selling DLC and cosmetics for 2 to 3 years after your single player game released not sustainable? If they went that route with The Last of Us 2, we actually would have gotten something from that. From what I hear, something actually pretty decent, and they could have made some extra money. Instead, they tried to go all out, ended up overextending themselves, resulting in the game being cancelled, wasting all that money and all those years of development, meaning that when it's all said and done, we're only going to get one Naughty Dog game this generation, and it's right at the tail end. Another thing is that I just don't want to have to dedicate my life to a multiplayer game. If I miss a week, now I miss the new limited time cosmetic items and I can never get them again. I have to grind XP and challenges. I can't just play for the sake of playing the game, because if I do, then I'm gonna miss out on the time limited extras. Then once you slip off, it becomes overwhelming to come back, and so you just end up never revisiting it. Because of all of this, I end up going extended months, sometimes even a year plus, without playing multiplayer games. These games no longer respect your time. They just want to consume it. And I hate the industry's approach to live service games. They look at all the top performing games every year, see that they're all live service and how much money they make, and say, well, we can launch 5 failures, but as long as the 6th game does well, it will pay for all the games that just flopped. The problem is, the 6th game that does well never comes. Everything gets either cancelled or shut down not long after launch. And now you've wasted the time of 6 developers that could have actually been working on something meaningful. A good majority of the PlayStation first-party studios haven't released a game this generation because of it. This idea that we only need one, and then not having any original ideas outside of copying something else that already exists. A majority of these live service games we get are not original. They're just worse versions of games we already have. A worse version of Overwatch, a worse version of Fortnite. And it's like, whose idea was this? Why did you think that this stood a chance or was going to compete somehow? People have invested thousands of dollars into these games, and they're comfortable where they are. They have their routines of coming home and doing the challenges and hopping online and playing with their friends. You're not just fighting for money anymore, you're fighting for people's time. That's why free-to-play games like High God can come out, hit 100,000 concurrent players on its first day, and then fall off a cliff right after. The only live service game that came out recently that feels fresh is Ark Raiders. And it seems like the industry is now going to try and copy that. And because development time is so long, we're probably going to see these extraction games start flooding the market in the next 4 to 5 years, not knowing that the party is already over and the trend has already died. You can't trend hop in game development because it just takes too long. Not to mention all these people who just watch Steam concurrent play accounts to determine if a game is worth their time or not. If a game has over 100,000 players, then they're interested and they want to check it out and see what the hype's about. But if it has less than that, then it's dead and they're not checking for it and they're constantly tweeting updates about how it's dropping. I think transparency is a good thing. And I liked when they had the concurrent play account shown in the Call of Duty games in the main menu. But as of late, people have been taking the Steam numbers too far. So I think whilst maybe not the main solution, but a partial solution, especially for PlayStation, is to just experiment, flip some assets, and put a multiplayer mode in. And do it day one too, you're not Rockstar, people aren't gonna come back a few months later. But if it's good, then people will stick with it, and you can build on that, and maybe even launch a sequel that is a standalone, like you plan with The Last of Us Factions. I don't think that's a bad business model, I think that can work. I think it can prove that, okay, there's interest, there's legitimate interest, people want this, there's a need for this. And then you go from there. And if it doesn't work, then you move on. You still made money from the single player part of it. You didn't have your developers working on something that's just going to be shut down and never played again, never seen again. And that's why I think there can still be some live service games, but I think that's why there should be a return to Tacked multiplayer games.